Very controversial topic today. Can rabbits have baths? Well, surprisingly enough, this is something that the Rabbit Welfare UK, the House Rabbit Societies, and the American Rabbit Breeders Association all agree on. And the answer to can rabbits have baths is actually yes. And now I'm going to get all the hate comments. Listen to the end. Can rabbits is yes. There's very strict stipulation as to when it is appropriate. Personally, I recommend regularly bathing a rabbit. Rabbits should not be given baths under normal circumstances, but there are cases when it is appropriate. If they, for some reason, you catch them from sitting in their own filth, and you need to wash them out, yes, it is appropriate to at least spot bathe them if they have gotten into something. If they're extensively dirty, if their fur is filthy, if they are sick, if they are injured, there is a list of stipulations when it is okay to bathe rabbits. As far as the Angoras, one person who's an exotic vet tech had suggested that, yeah, you can do that maybe once a year for a full cleaning, considering that they can get very dirty. So ideally, you want to try to keep them so they're in a constant state of cleanliness, which they're fairly clean animals, but they can have baths under specific circumstances. Now, you don't want to just dunk them in the tub because rabbits can get very scared with the water. Most of them are afraid of water. Not all of them. I've seen quite a few that actually enjoy swimming. I've seen videos. There's videos on TikTok of people taking the rabbits to the beach and him jumping right in. So those do exist. Typically, no. Do I bathe my rabbits? Usually it is done as a medical preventative or as a treatment. I have had to do it before with rabbits that either came up with sore hocks caused by them sitting in their own feces, ones that have been pissed on thoroughly or soaked by the rabbit next to them, because occasionally bucks will do that. Babies will climb all over mom. I've had some utter geniuses that thought it was really cute to play with their automatic waterers to the point that they absolutely soaked themselves. And they got themselves wet. So on occasion, you do have to do it. It's important to clean them up if they're wounded. There's a whole list of reasons that are caveats. If you do have to bathe the rabbit, the preference is warm washcloth spot clean. Ideally, especially with like New Zealand whites, we don't even do that. Typically, we'll go for the cornstarch bath. If it's just a little bit of dirt, rub them down with some cornstarch. And once they're rubbed down with cornstarch, you can kind of buff them off, and the cornstarch will pull the dirt off the fur. So you can basically dust bath them, kind of like how people dust bath chinchillas. The next step up from that one, if they're more dirty or there's a cut or something involved, you're going to want to do a spot or a soak bath in just that spot that needs it. If they are extensively dirty, they've been sitting in filth, they come from a really bad situation, they have somehow managed to get themselves really nasty, you can do a very shallow water soak. You want to try to avoid getting water in the ear. You want to try to avoid getting their head wet unless they absolutely have. That's where you need to clean. The recommendation is actually to put a little bit of eye ointment in the eye if you do need to wash their face, and then go ahead and wash from there. But there are situations when, yeah, it's appropriate. Now, I don't want to speak too much on Angoras because apparently there's a huge amount of controversy with that because they have a different type of coat completely. There are some Angora people that say bathe them once a year very carefully and make sure they're thoroughly blow dried, as needed. There's others that just say blow out the coat with a high velocity dryer. It's really going to depend on what your choice is and how comfortable you feel, giving your rabbit a bath. Me personally, I don't like doing it even when I have to do it, but this is one of those things that, it's a here or there. Different people have different opinions on this. And it's not an absolute. There's no such thing as absolutes. There's no absolutes in rabbit care. Wire is fine. Bathing rabbits is fine. Pellets are fine. More pellets, 80% pellets is fine. No hay is fine. It's just how you do your animal husbandry. It's just how you are working out that works best for your system. All of those things I just said have caveats to them. I know I've mentioned this before. There's plenty of people that do it. Like with the hay, rabbits do not need hay. It is not a requirement. They don't have to have it. And there you have to pay attention to the wording. You have to pay attention to what the language states. It's not necessary. That doesn't mean I don't give it. I've done several videos on this in the past that explain when I feel it's appropriate and what types of hay and what each growth stage gets. I do give hay. That is definitely on the plate for what we use here, but it is not their staple. Their staple is their pellet, and we use a very high-grade balanced pellet. As far as other things, rabbits and baths. Baths are acceptable. Every single one of the rabbit organizations says there's caveats to giving rabbits baths. Every single one of the rabbit organizations says try not to. So those are your two things. Number one, try to avoid having to. That's great. Number two, there are situations when you may need to. Number four, use cat shampoo if you're going to absolutely have to wash them, like shampoo wash them. So that is your that is your three things that you need to think about. When you want to get into those caveats, what are the caveats of giving a rabbit a bath? They're filthy. They've been sitting in filth. They are urine soaked, either by a next door cage mate or by themselves, because I've had multiple rabbits that have done this to themselves, where they have just pissed themselves in the summer and sat in it because it is cooler. Even though you give them cool tires and ice bottles. Sometimes they like to play in the water dish. Sometimes them playing in the water dish is also a sign of possible oncoming gut issues. So you do want to keep an eye on when they do things like that. Sometimes they're just idiots. So that's, it happens. But like I said, there's no absolutes. There's nothing that stays steady as an absolute. Wire and rabbit's feet. Proper gauge wire, not an issue. KW Cages is finally sending me my shit. It's supposed to arrive next Monday, so we'll get to do a cage building video, and I'll get to explain to you what is correct cage wire. There's also wrong cage wire. Again, I have done videos explaining and showing the difference between hardware cloth, which is very damaging to their feet, and proper gauge wire, which is not. Then again, there's also caveats to wire. Even the proper gauge wire is not recommended for certain breeds or certain predispositions. Flemish Giants really should not be on straight wire hanging cages like I use for my New Zealands, because the Flemish Giant is so heavy, they are prone to getting sore hocks from the wire because of their weight. So they do need to have a solid surface in order to rest upon. Rex breeds, certain other different coated breeds, again, their fur is not thick enough like, my New Zealands or some of the other rabbit breeds. They are prone to sore hocks. So they are not recommended to have 100% wire. They're recommended to have some kind of resting mat. There are exceptions to every rule. But you cannot blanket say this is good for everybody, because that's not how it works. There are times that there are things that are perfectly fine for one breed that are not for another. Just like you see the people with the, oh my God, if you're cold, they're cold, bring them inside. That's extremely applicable to something like my breed, which is Schnauzer. The giant Schnauzers and the mini Schnauzers don't have Arctic coats. If I had a Husky, on the other hand, good luck getting that dog indoors during a blizzard. So again, what is acceptable for one animal is not going to be acceptable for another animal. What works for one breed doesn't always work for all breeds. So the black and white thinking, unfortunately, is extremely dangerous, and we're seeing a lot of this in the animal rights organizations. You don't know what you're talking about. I've seen a lot of these very dangerous bills that are being proposed right now. The 30-30 is bullshit. Pause is bullshit. There was another one, it might have been 30, but there's another one out in Portland. What they're basically trying to do is they're trying to make artificial insemination and castration considered sexual acts of bestiality and make them illegal. They're trying to make all animal slaughter illegal. I'm sorry, you don't know what you're talking about, and you're going to cause much more harm. Right now, animals are well cared for up until the time that it is time to be processed. And the way that we process, it's done very quickly. And meat is necessary for survival. Part of the reasons why vegans are fucking crazy is because they're not getting enough meat in their diet. It has been proven that a fully plant-based diet doesn't contain the correct amino acids for your brain to function correctly, which makes you more susceptible to stupidity. And then you start sprouting stupidity because you're in a fucking cult. Let us eat our meat. We're humans. We evolved that way. That's why we have canines.